and I accept that fully. The presentation this morning is entitled on the pineal and the pineal. It's a long title, and to keep step with the flow, of course, we're going to modify and adjust. And I have a series of slides which I will kind of go through in a very rapid fashion. Them brothers, in teaching me and allowing me to stand that is really eons old. And I certainly look forward to my students to stand on my shoulders and to correct me, because that is a correct move towards truth. And in terms of the methodology, say it, thought of several millions of years of collected wisdom. And so it is like walking into a library of 1,000 miles high and saying, is there anything to Kim? And to see it jam-packed with books. And to know that though the physical structure has changed somewhat, that all of that lives in its completeness in the air around us. Raise a question. This is a slide of a map of Antarctica. Antarctica, and it shows the outline of Antarctica before it was covered over in ice. So I raised to you a question that raised up in me. How did someone in writing and discussion in libraries and universities and excellent mothers, excellent fathers, and excellent female and male teachers means it was a very, very high-tech culture. It not only mapped the planet, but mapped the universe. And very importantly, mapped the inner world universe and saw that they were all one. And it was these people who were the founders of what we call Kemet. And we talk about Nile Valley civilizations, and knowing that Holy Land from which we all sprang was through the birthplace that came from these African mothers and fathers. Khufu, the pharaoh that was one in the third dynasty. This is a slide that I would use for a less advanced audience, but I can go on because in the center, of course, in that face that you see in the solar bark, the one that just happened to be defaced, is the head of sun god Ra, as Africans, as Kemets, defined them and visualized them. A close-up drawing removes all question. And we wonder why. How could that face have been defaced? It was not an African. These are the Africans on the center and on the left. And the others were how we saw them, again, from the tomb of Ramses. This is how we visualized ourselves, rising from a mentor, not in some demonic description of the phallic symbol, seeing it come and all the symbolism, as I, as a psychiatrist, one who swims in symbolism. But here we have the phallic symbol rising from the umbilical cord to a state of awareness. Just becoming aware of who you are and learning how to use who you are to be about your work. The fertilization, again, a divine relationship in which the sky goddess Nut is being fertilized by the earth god. And we see a phallic symbol again about to impregnate the umbilical cord, something that the sisters can tell us about. But again, so many levels of birth and so many levels of understanding about what is this thing inside of us. How could we knowledge to know how to traverse the so-called Amenta? So here is the Pharaoh Tutankhamun and the opening of the mouth ceremony, as it is found all around the world, even in South America before there ever was a Columbus. The same kind of procedures being found, the same kind of instruments being used to give this person the words of power, the words of certain vibratory rates, to be able to unlock certain states inside of one's own being. Again, the opening of the mouth ceremony in terms of the being given the words of power, the words. Here we have again the concept of the God from whom creating the man and woman on the potter's wheel. And here we have again the notion of the Ka and also the Bennu bird, again symbolizing that there's something inside of us, in every Kemet person, that allows us not to be detached, as Sister Ricchetti has said, Professor Ricchetti has said, not to be detached, but to be a part of us. But when we get deep into our Chem factor, we fly, literally. The expansion that takes place, these different states that come to us, even at night and in the daytime, all times, 24 hours. It's not just nighttime dream. This is 24 hours. That ancestral world is trying to speak to us 24 hours a day. With 24 hours a day. That if we can just hear the language, know it. I mean, do I really expect my ancestral world to speak to me in English? Black language, English would get more onto it. And then I see, and then our does, we just don't, again, becoming aware. Here we see the pharaonic crown, and a very important thing, again, things come to you with the feather of Ma'at. Question comes, this is only a question at this point in time. How does the feather of Ma'at relate to the Ba, or the Ba and Ka birds? How does that relate? How does the feather relate to that bird? And why do we have the coil? And that coil is about 3.14. Then we get to another question of the case to an equivalent concept in the anatomy of the netter human. And here we see this concept of the sutures that correspond to the Kepra beetle, showing that there is something, as we talk about Kepra rolling the sun disk across the sky and the crowns of our head as being illuminated by an aspect of ray as it rolls across the sky. But do we dare consider what relationship do we have to assist the sun as it rolls across the sky? Now another question comes up in terms of how, even in that book by Piankanov on the shrine that took our crazy to embrace ourselves, we must see that, I think, come to awareness that the oppressor has labeled things unconsciously and also intentionally with the most horrible meanings as a means to turn us away from things that would lead to our own resurrection. And that it is a very important thing to not let, if your mind raises a question, that's the only way, that's the only thing that you need. If it came up in your mind, then that is more important than ever getting a Nobel Prize. As a matter of fact, if you got a Nobel Prize, you better ask what's going on. Because we don't know how many of the answers are trying to pass something on to you right now for you to do. The notion of the head being born out of the lily, the so-called flowering process as one touches the crown. The lily that is, quotes, tightly bound, and then it unfurls. And then out of that most fragrant flower comes an aspect of yourself. System that promotes and allows that. And here it is from the tomb of Tutankhamun, the same concept. That in our, and we use the head, we could really put the entire body in it, no doubt. There, we emerge out of that. There's something deep inside of us. Again, the mask. Again, the actual face, the human form. How could we? How crazy is the game that in 1979, the part of that came here in terms of an exhibit, and there was a debate: was he black? And yet these sat right in Oxford University, beside the other, and between box 2 and 1, a thin film of linen cloth with gold stars embroidered upon it, in which they were giving a knowledge of their statement of the collective understanding of scientific investigation that encompasses, I think, millions of years. Millions of years. The things found on the pharaonic crown not only symbolize upper and lower Egypt, but in terms of the upper and lower aspect of ourselves, not in a hierarchical sense, but use of science and a profound respect of each other. Side view. Again, showing just the different types, crowns, and all the idea of the feather of Ma'at, of upper and lower Kemet. The Bennu bird, another name for Bennu bird, and it is from this that came the European concept of the stork. But they don't tell you that Bennu means the black bird. So a black bird brought in the little new ones and found again the wrapping of that head with a full appreciation for levels of understanding that I just am just a total novice at beginning to understand. But that there was a extra wad of bandages placed on top, or linen cloth placed on top, again to symbolize perhaps the importance of what was in the top of that head, or the crown. The linen cloth with the beads embroidered on the top, again symbolizing the things that were present in the serpentine fashion, which I've just now learned that the serpent, and this just came to me this morning. Now I look at this and see that this particular aspect paints the crown of Tutankhamun wearing a black crown. And I just beginning to, the answers will help it, I think, trying to make me say, brother, you better study some more. Because look at this here. So that's a point to be raised. From the right shrine of the second shrine of Tutankhamun, the right panel, I will probably have spent at least another lifetime just working with one panel. But I'm not going to let it go. I'm going to stay on it until I have got all that I could possibly see in it. And melatonin during darkness, and serotonin during daytime. You mean my people knew neuroendocrinology 3,300 years ago? And it was just now rediscovered this in 1958 AD? I said, could the cover-up be that great? And yes, it is. A closer up, so you can see what yourself. Here is the Kim, a Kim serpent putting rays of light into the anatomical site where the pioneer says that something inside of that phallus conveys the ancestral world. That in the life seed of Africans, as we pass that sperm on to that egg, we're passing on millions of years of African family. And we just don't even know where all of us came from in terms of, are you a flashback from 4,000 years ago, 3,000, and you got some kind of aspect to do right now? Just, we don't even know. And then we're told that we are slaves, or recently released slaves. And here we are, the rulers of the world. The rulers, that ain't right, brother. You better get some, you better go to a higher source. You can't even read the hieroglyphics at this point in time because and I'll say it, because you have been too lazy to do so. No other reason but that. You've been too afraid. You've been too captured by the drama of the educational system that you went through. And if you are going to be more in love than you are afraid, you'll throw that aside. So that's my reasons for not having learned. I don't know about others, but those are my own. That I could sense that there were other things to it. And so that indeed there are other names to it. And I can look at it visually. And each time I look at it, I have to look at it and then sit on it unconscious. In other words, that they know that they're inside of the so-called mind, that there are ancestral memories that go all the way back. And I would add, even beyond the physical human condensation. So then we get into a whole question of beyond the atom. But that's what we can conceive. Yes, we are divine. Again, the different levels, family, nations, and all this, all that inside of us. But what happens to the European when he runs up to his black mama? Bring it on. You know. Take me on to heaven. Oh, yes. I don't mind getting out of space. I just love it, love it, love it. You know, but somebody else has a different kind of hookup, and without those chemical keys, it can be demonic. But again, as there is a springtime, there's also a winter in terms of consciousness and in terms of human families. So we're coming out of winter. Because the inner world don't even accept the dollar bill. You can't buy nothing in the inner world with a dollar bill. You can be a billionaire and still jump in the lake of fire inside the inner world. That don't take nothing. Your heart must be weighed based upon your conduct with your fellows.
That's right.
Again, just closer abuse, and now we'll pick the pace up. We know that they studied under us in Rome. They projected the Isaiah rites. We know that there's been a rip-off of all of our culture. We know that tomorrow they will celebrate Easter, and that it relates to an astronomical event. This is from the book of Black Men of the Nile. But we don't know what the original African concepts were. They related to the profound symbolism of why would you hold a right triangle, a right angle in your hand? What is the geometrical and numerical symbolism of the so-called religion? And that is indeed an aspect of that. Again, this is Kim Ware. How the cascade of glands that turn on and open up and promote the production of melanin or Kim in skin from the brain, or from the Haru principle in the forehead. The fertilization of the in the holy womb of the African woman by the life seed of the black man. That all these things, be it Kim in the inner ear, Kim in the meninges of the brain, be it Kim in the oral mucosa of the mouth, be it Kim in the auditory canal, be it Kim in the different organs of the body, be it Kim in the skin, that all of these things come from an infinitesimal thing called the life egg. And indeed, it is a Kim thing. There it is in the skin, organized over the nucleus. Not only to shelter it, but to nurture the nucleus of skin cells. There it is in the skins of others. Less nurturing going on. Spinal ventricular system. Birds rising up inside of our heads. Again, as I do things backwards, I'm really dealing with what my teacher would say, with the backside of Eden. But anyway, the chemical pathway. But let me just hurry on, because now this is a picture from Bubastis, from the Egyptian Exploration Fund. And this book was written in the 1890s. It is the picture of one of the Hyksos kings, Asiatic kings, one of the first ones who come in and defile our land and take over the northern parts. Look at this face well. Know it when you see it. They say that there are no faces of it found. There it is. Again, this is one that was hidden. Now, wishes of our parents, now departed, who paid a price for us to be here today. Again, Ramses and the present. The present. The present and the past, knowing words of power to move through. Again, these are people in rulership. They live in our blood this very second. They live in our blood this very second. They live in our blood this very second. We just need to see them.